Okay, we're live. Great, we're live. Okay, welcome to Talking Talent. I'm Jay Rusden, Head of Marketing at Video My Job, and we're here live usually about once a month. It's been a little bit of a break before this one for all the employer brand managers and enthusiasts alike, talking about building EB programs, content strategies, and measuring outcomes. So first of all, welcome, Bree. I'm excited to have you on today. First session co-hosting. How you feel?
Oh, bit of pressure.
Yeah.
I'm very excited.
Right.
We've got an awesome guest today too, so it makes it a lot easier.
That's it. No, you'll be fine. And yeah, it is a good guess. So why don't we get him on? Warm welcome to Alex Herr, co-founder of the EB Space, EB Storyteller. Good morning, good evening. Alex, like I said before, it's been a big response to this session. So you must be in demand out there. So it's going to be a good session.
I think it's got to be the two of you. I'm just here to provide some opinions, and if people love them or hate them, so be it.
No, please. All right, we've just got a few call outs before we jump into the conversation with you, Alex. So the first one is from my end. We've got at Video My Job, we've launched another program which is called the Collab. So this new program is in addition to Talking Talent, which is all about EB video strategy in particular, hearing from top Video My Job users from the industry. That program's open to everybody as well. So we'll drop a link into that one for anybody who's interested in that one. Bree, have you got any call outs on your side?
Yes, just for those in APAC or further abroad who want to travel, don't miss out on the upcoming ATC, the Australian Talent Conference. It's a ripper at Sydney's Luna Park. Great learning opportunities and a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to catching up with you all.
Yep, nice. I've got one more last minute edition that just came in yesterday from our friends Cara and Will over at TQ Solutions. They've got employer brand strategy days coming up in the next few weeks across Melbourne and Sydney. Really hands-on and practical, especially good for those kind of TA folks that are kind of building their skills towards that EB space as well. So we'll drop a link for that one as well. So heaps coming up in the next few months for people looking really at networking opportunities as well as the practical kind of skill building side of things. And one last one, anybody who's been to Talking Talent before know our producer Paul loves to pick out the best question at the end of the session. So don't miss the opportunity to ask questions of Alex and Bree, obviously as well. And we're going to give away another copy of James Ellis's book here, another really practical kind of guide and set of insights for people who can build skills. So definitely ask questions and we'll pick out the best one before we finish up the session. So Alex, kicking it off, just for those, seems like I said before, based on the response, a lot of people know you in the industry, but for those who don't know you already, I've been told and heard that you're one of the big contributors to a lot of the EB communities around the world globally. Obviously, you're currently leading employer brand at GoDaddy, but also you founded the EB space this year. So it'd be great to share a bit about what you're working on there and kind of what the inspiration was.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, done a couple things here in the space. Last 7 years, based out of Austin, Texas, here in the States, but definitely love the global atmosphere and everything that comes with it. So I co-founded the EB space with a good friend, Claire D'Souza, out of the UK. Thank you, Rachel. Saw the message there, but I co-founded that, and what we're doing actually at the moment is, and the whole approach behind Claire and I putting the community together was we've had a chance to be part of different global communities, and I think we saw bits and pieces that we really enjoyed. I mean, that's what brought us together as friends to partner together. But what we felt was missing was an opportunity for a community to truly be on one platform where you could do everything together. So not just the messaging or discussion board type of setup and knowledge sharing, but also where you could do audio calls, video calls. That's still something that we're exploring. We're very new. I mean, we've developed a decent following globally, but I think we have a long way to go. We're building building the plane as we fly it in a good way. I know there's bad ways where people, companies are doing that and it's going down, it's not going up. But we're doing that and really trying to extend our reach. I mean, I think we've done a good job where it's not just US or UK focused, where I think a lot of groups are at, but we have a lot of individuals from other parts of the world. So Netherlands, South Africa. We also have in
Ah.
Japan, Australia too. Yep, I was still getting there. But it's a good broad audience and group of members that we have. But to anyone who is on, who's tuning into this or listens to the recording or watches it, feel free to join. We just have a Google form that we use to vet individuals because we want to keep it for practitioners or out in, whether you're in-house or external. If you're doing the work, we want to build that trust, connect everyone. We have Chatham rules when it comes to that, so we're going to keep everything inside of there. But we do want to grow the industry and help everyone, just knowledge share and learn from each other.
Yeah, nice. And I think, I mean, that's the thing I love about, especially over the last kind of few years or so, the growth in the community space in different industries. There's always like it's not competitive. It's more that there's always a unique slice of value to be added and contributed to the industry overall. So I love that you're bringing something new to the table there.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And we'll make sure to drop a link among all the other resources we're going to share after the session today. So yeah, maybe I'll hand to you to kick us off into the topics, Bree.
Absolutely. I guess a good segue over the last few years. It's been interesting last few years. And I know, Alex, you and I have spoken a number of times, at least over the last 5 years. And each check-in's been a really different story. I think it's been quite a roller coaster with ups and downs for the employer branding and broader TA industries. Really across the globe. I think we've all seen some interesting things happening.
Sure.
Huge shifts I've seen really in that demand for employer branding support, for jobs, available budgets, program of work, and where the focus lies. That's really changed a lot. I guess with you being in the US tech market, you've probably seen and experienced the toughest of it all. I guess you and I know that it's absolutely necessary to manage an employer brand reputation in the good times and the bad times within an organization. However, this experience of what we've seen has really proven that employer branding is still not necessarily seen as business critical in all organizations. So do you believe this is a result of employer brand not being commercially focused enough? And do you think that's changing?
Yeah, all good things to unpack there. And I know, like you mentioned, the last 5 years, I mean, heck, I would say even for us to connect from Austin, Australia, has been wonderful. But we've also had a chance to share, different struggles we have within each region, but also globally. And I would say we've done a good job as an industry to become more relevant. But I think commercializing what we do and why that matters to leadership, to advisors on the board of the companies that run, help fund and run the make the decisions for the companies that we get the opportunity to work with. It's a huge thing that I think we're still missing. I think a lot of us are looking at that. I know myself. I'm looking at that too and thinking, okay, how can we truly provide value outside of what we may geek out about in terms of, okay, as practitioners, we can talk about which platforms we're using, tomorrow instead of today, which metrics we may, love more that are relevant to us. But when you give that information, you share that, up the ladder, a lot of that stuff doesn't really matter. I mean, it's great. We can all jump into any employer brand shop and, and by shop, I mean, take over a team, whatever you want to call that. But you can help out a company. You can easily get the impressions and clicks there. You can increase the amount of visitors that are going there. But how do you make that relevant for leadership to listen to you and to really truly understand that where it has a significant value? Because they don't understand, the CTRs doesn't matter to them. Impressions or clicks, followers are good, but how does that impact them? You have to take that out of our realm of being employer brand practitioners. And it's okay. Are we actually getting people in the door quicker? Are we lowering the time to fill, time to hire? Are we, and then explain, okay, so if you're lowering that, how does that impact them? Well, it's pretty simple. Pretty simple. I say that right in theory, it's simple, but actually putting that into practice is another thing, because you can say, okay, we're lowering the time to fill this, your positions, but how does it impact them? Okay, well, if we lower it from 40 days to 30, People are then in turn getting to the positions quicker. So we're saving, recruiters less time. We're saving less, a lot of money on advertising efforts where they can focus on the next requisition. And then in turn, right there, where it goes outside of TA is if these, engineers are joining your R&D teams and they're working on these products that you wanted to work on several years ago, okay, that's happening much quicker. Individuals who are coming in to be, customer sales reps or outside sales, they're actually in the door quicker to sell for you. So that process is moving quicker. And at the end of the day, if all that's functioning correctly, granted, some, leadership has to flow with that too. You are getting, you're servicing more customers, you're bringing more customers in. And at the end of the day, you're making a bigger profit.
Yeah. How have you been having, I guess, bringing this information? Obviously, we can see that connect the dots from we do this flows through and impacts this. How have you used this knowledge and this data and having some tough conversations in, obviously, as we go through these tough times and having to justify? I'm speaking to another couple of companies and the other day, and they're talking about the need to re-justify for probably the 5th time in the last few years their existence in the organization. What are the kind of conversations you've had to have of late?
You've got to, outside of everything we just shared there, it's making the data work for you. So what is that actually showing you? Are you able to show that there's, are you trending in a good way, trending in a bad way? And how, getting very, very granular, looking at, okay, if you're trying to justify, your stance, I want to first say that, okay, whatever we're sharing, these are things that will help you out. It's not a silver bullet that is gonna, maybe stop your company from taking employer branding away or, making, any sort of redundancies. Just gives you a fighting chance. And I would say, if you have an opportunity to make it difficult for companies, that's what you want to do. You don't want to be the first one on the front lines who's being let go. No. But it comes down to fighting for the rationale as to why you should be there, pointing out everything that you're doing right at a high level, getting away it could be quick wins, it could be small things such as going back to your your candidate, if you're giving any sort of surveys that you're providing candidates, and there's a lot of golden nuggets there. We all do this as companies, but they're given reviews if they actually have, they've gone through the application or the candidate experience and they've gotten the job or they have not gotten the job. They'll let you know, hey, what attracted you? What inspired you to click apply? Why did you stay through the process, throughout the entire process? What kept you warm? What eventually made you make the decision to choose company A over company B? Those are pretty key things. And also, if there's any other things you can drop in there, would it be a huge win on social, a huge way to actually save the company money based off of what you're doing internally. If it's if it's the channels you're running, the blogs you're running, that actually, instead of spending 6 figures on a partnership, the work that you've done has actually saved your company money, which has allowed you to push resources elsewhere. Sharing everything that because, and I say everything, and it's going to be specific to your situation, because Bree, your situation, Jay, yours could be vastly different than mine, right? I think we're trying to get towards the same thing to make sure that EB stays, a mainstay at our companies or wherever we may be at. But there may be aspects where, okay, your leadership may view this as a priority. Mine's may be different. We're at different steps of the journey, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Alex, what can EB teams or leaders or groups learn from how other departments that are super commercial focused have those tough conversations, the kind of cadence and that commercial focus, things like ABRs or QBRs? What can EB learn from those kind of activities?
I think at the end you just captured that. I'm very big on that, on MBRs and QBRs, because if you leave people to their devices, they're going to assume that EB is one of the industries where, okay, if you didn't know any better, you would assume that one thing that you're putting on social is probably all you do. But if you actually sit in a room, virtual room, talk to an EB person or team, you realize, okay, there's a crap load that goes into what you do to eventually get the finished product. So showing your work, sharing all the secrets, everything that you're doing, even if it's experimental, hey, share that with leadership, because that's going to matter. And that's, like you mentioned with other teams do a great job of doing that, right? But then we typically find ourselves with employer branding. We're we live in a silo because we want to share some stuff, but we're scared that internal comms is going to slap our wrist. Creative team is going to get pissed off because we're using Canva, and the marketing team is afraid we're going to take their jobs or take over the LinkedIn contract that we actually own, right? Because a lot of TA teams actually own that contract, but they're kind of restricted. But you're afraid of these different turf battles, and it's really what you shouldn't be doing. I mean, if you are open and honest, let people know what you're doing, you're actually going to get those other teams who they're more mature, they have things built out. They're going to help you out because they know what you want, they know what you need. And in turn, you could take elements from them. But I think MBRs, QBRs, sharing as much as you can. I've yet to see that go against you. If anything, it's going to help you out with when push comes to shove.
Yep. And for those on the session who might not have been, say, inside a QBR or something like that before for any part of the business, can you kind of just break down what does that kind of look like? What does that mean?
Yeah, for an MBR, just show what you're doing for. It helps to have 30 to 31 days worth of data to work with. Provide a high level update. Employer branding specifically. All right, what are you working on? Are there high end projects? You and your individual teammates, what's the highlight of the month for them? What have they accomplished that you feel is admirable, right? Because you're advocating for them. Number one, you're advocating for yourself and then your team, as well as the function that you have within your company. On top of that, how have you influenced applicants coming in, visitors to your social pages, that journey in terms of what they're taking, right? Full life cycle, how you're tying that back into TA as well as the company. And then on top of that, showing some trends. Numbers are key. Numbers, whether they be Glassdoor, Facebook, up to the career page, to your ATS, tying that together and how that makes sense, but also being able to tell a story with that too. Because if you're just putting stuff out there, right, people want you to change the world, change the, climate change. They're not looking for you to give them something where you're just reading off slides, right? Make it impactful. And definitely no death by PowerPoint. No one wants 30 slides for an MBR. QBR, you may be pushing that boundary just a little bit because there's 3 months worth of data to work with. But for an MBR, keep that short, but make it impactful. And that I guarantee you, even with that, you're going to give yourself, you're going to see more doors open than are closed by doing that.
Yep. And who's your ideal audience? Like, who do you bring to the table when you're running those sessions?
That's the exact same question.
Yeah, so I sit in TA, right? So that's my audience there. But my hope is that with what I share, it doesn't just stay within, amongst my TA teammates, that it goes all the way up to the C-suite, because I want it to be that impactful where they felt it was, made that much of a difference, that it goes to, leadership above me where it hits their MBRs, their QBRs, and then they see that, okay, hey, with this employer branding stuff, that seemed like, it was a nice to have. We need that. We don't just need it when we're hiring. We also need it when we're building up processes. We're fighting to retain people. We're dealing with redundancies. It's something that has to stay there no matter what.
Yeah.
Yep. Nice.
You mentioned before, Alex, and I heard a lot of employer brand functions work in isolation, and it's often they're trying to do things without being known that the things are happening because they don't want to get the wrist slapped. And it's a let's just get it out there and ask for forgiveness kind of approach in many organizations I hear.
It's a good approach.
Yeah. Talk to me though. I know as well, I've done that for years. I did, but it's more, I think the greater success can be achieved through collaboration with different parts of the organization.
Agreed.
Through your experience, who are those, I guess, key stakeholders across the business that you need to be engaging along that journey and kind of getting the buy-in and support for what you do?
Well, for one, depending on where you sit, so I'll just use my example because I sit in TA. One, you got to start small. So you need your recruiters, the TA leadership, sourcers, anybody who's there to first, get them involved in terms of what you're going to do or what you'll be doing. Because as you mentioned, we sit in silos quite a bit, And what I find is we're typically brought in when maybe this, let's say Jay runs, a startup, and he's like, I know we need this. I don't know exactly where this person or this team's going to sit, but let's bring them in. And that's it. There's no one else educating or advocating for you, right? It's kind of up to you. They're dropping you in the deep end, and you sure as hell better learn how to swim immediately. So, but it doesn't end there, right? I think that's probably your first couple of weeks. You set up those calls, you kind of learn what's going on. I would say for me, like when I had joined, here at GoDaddy, I love traveling. I love Europe. And so I joined a team that was based in the US, but I handled EMEA, right? So I worked some unique hours, to say the least. And the biggest thing was, okay, let me learn what some of the struggles are, because that kind of goes to my approach. I came up with a team concept, and the whole thing is, okay, there's time to go through that. So what I did was I set up one-on-ones with all my recruiters as well as the senior leadership, but not limited to them. I also, once I figured out some of their struggles, like what were we doing in the States that we could not replicate in, like the UK, Romania, or elsewhere. And then what was different, like, okay, we could be hiring for this position versus that. And those, also the different, like, localization of the branding, the language that we had, the videos, figuring that all out. And then from there, but learning from them, who are your key stakeholders, right? Who should I be working with? Because it's great that I have you, but I know there's got to be like a country manager, HR manager. And then from there, once you get the buy-in from those HR managers, okay, let's talk to the head of engineering, the head of sales, customer service, and then working with those teams, right? Because once you have buy-in from the top, and then you give them, a lot to work with, let them know you're there to be a partner. You're not just, there from, HQ, and you're here to shut down their ideas. You want to bring their ideas to life. When you start doing that, things start flowing, and people would naturally gravitate back to you, where, okay, they'll share their stuff. And then in turn, you're connected with them. You'll be part of these different Slack groups, Teams, Discord, whatever you use, right? You'll figure out that there's so much there that you can be working with, and they trust you enough to share that because you've done the due diligence to reach out to them.
Yeah. I've also found that I think times of greatest success or real partnership is actually when you're getting those business leaders on board within the critical talent segments, whether it be the chief technology officer or the head of cyber. When you've got them on board, they need this. They're desperate for it, and they're all in support, and often can bring the funding as well, right?
Exactly. Yeah. When they see that it can be done a different way, it's changing the thought process, right? Like, like typically hiring managers just think, okay, it's one and done. They copy this JD, they give it to the recruiter, very little involvement in terms of the intake, and then they push it out to LinkedIn, local job boards. That's it, they're done. And if you show them something as simple as, hey, what? Let me stop you there. Okay, let's do this. I will give you messaging. I'm a copywriter by trade, so I will give you this. I will show you how it should be done. And let's just do this instead. Give it a few days. You share that. You and your teammates share that too, because I have an ends to a mean. Like, I work in recruitment. I'm an employer brand leader. So people are going to know what I'm trying to do, right? I'm telling these stories, I'm amplifying them, but you actually have the network that will help you get the person that you're looking to hire, because I know developers, I know front end, back end engineers. I don't know them like you do. I can't talk tech stack. And you sharing that has, a bigger impact versus me or 20 other people who aren't really involved with it. Like, we can spread the good word. I think it's going to maybe impact that, but they want to hear from you. They want to hear from the horse's mouth. That matters more to them.
And so just calling out for any other, we've had a lot of nice comments coming through, just checking if we've got any other questions and call out for that. So one kind of final question on this first topic, Alex, is we started to touch on it before around, okay, how to position and add value when hiring slows down, because you were just talking before about getting the right positioning and collaboration with hiring managers and department leaders and things like that. But I know you've got a really nice analogy around this, if you want to share that before we move on to the next topic.
Oh yeah. With teams, is that what you're?
Playoffs. The playoffs.
The playoffs. Tell us about the playoffs.
It's all in Australia. It's all the football codes. It's the grand final this weekend. So the playoff analogy, not making the playoffs. When we spoke about, what do you do then as a team?
Oh, if you don't make the playoffs.
Yeah. yeah, what do you do as a team? So if hiring slows, where are you adding value? What are you
Oh,
doing?
well, I think that's I'm kind of stumped by that too, because that question comes up more than you would think,
Mm,
either publicly or behind closed doors on, the communities that we all frequent. There's a lot you can do because people keep thinking that, as an employer brand leader or team, that your focus should be external, but there's also a little thing called retention and keeping your people there, excited about things, right? So there's opportunities there where, okay, hey, things are slow, maybe build an employer brand toolkit, because one of the key things that is picking up steam that Adam Gordon's working on is out of Edinburgh, is there is recruiter enablement. Recruiter enablement ties pretty good into employer branding, where, okay, so if you have, for employer branding team, if you can help with recruiter enablement tools for your recruiters, when hiring does pick up, that's going to help them be successful. And then along with that, you slide into your employer brand toolkit, which is going to teach them, hey, basically, as much as you can, EB 101, like what's the best way to go to market, how, help them refresh their LinkedIn profiles, help them, work on their personal brands. And that you have the time to do that now when it's slow, right? When things do pick up, then, you're going to be super busy. So the focus really won't be there. But outside of that, it's a great opportunity to, capture some content with people who are there. So unless that company's shutting down, right, there's got to be people who are there for a reason. Outside of needing a job, let's assume the market's good in this circumstance. They're happy to be there. So okay, let's talk to the director of engineer, because he has to know that hiring is going to pick up eventually. So what would you want? Like, how can we set you up for success? So when the virtual doors open for hiring next month, or let's go 2 months out. All right, let's record a video. Like, what's special about you and your team? Speak that, engineering lingo that's going to work. So get a few of those different videos to capture, the hiring manager, the team, heck, even build out a blog, or, start diving into TikTok, which is a huge miss by a lot of companies. But
mm,
and then outside of that, you have a lot of existing content, whether it be on the branding side or on the product or consumer marketing side, that is still there. You've created that prior to things slowing down. You can always leverage that. Nothing stops. And also, if your company is big in the community with your efforts, that's additional content that you can share, because you shouldn't just be sharing, content about you hiring. There should be content that tells the overall story about your company, that experience inside and outside. And that's a great opportunity to really to dive into that, to investigate, see what you have, and go back and start leveraging that, because the content doesn't die after using it once. So those are just a few different things. I mean, I'm sure there's more. We could talk for that, for several hours. But no, I view a slowdown like that's just, you're going to be busy, but in a different way compared to when you're
Mm.
hiring for quite a few requisitions.
Yeah, it sounds like such a good opportunity to go back, because I know even drawing parallels in the marketing space, there's always that list of like really good hygiene activities, those refreshes or exploring new channels that you just don't have time for when you're just in full execution mode. So to take that opportunity to go back, rebuild, refresh, and strengthen before you're going back out and you are hiring again, which is bound to happen as the market changes. Yeah, I think it's a really good
Agreed.
move. Yeah.
Agreed. And I think
Okay.
Thibaut just dropped something good in there too. But kudos to him for that. Sorry, keep going.
Yep. Nice. All right, cool. Let's jump into the next topic, which is a bit more around, but yeah, it's a good segue again, like into content
yeah.
strategy itself. So, Alex, I wish I should have noted the name or flicked this to you, but I saw a great post on LinkedIn the other day talking about how, suggesting something along the lines of 5% of talent is in that like active search state at any given point in time. So I researched a bit more. LinkedIn's got some other numbers that's closer to say 25%. So there's quite a range there. Obviously, it depends on many different factors like industry, regional, or like right now, economic conditions. But I suppose the key point was that it sounds like that it's really good to assume that the minority of talent, especially good talent, is active. And so there's this large opportunity there, or missed opportunity, if you're not thinking about the rest of the talent who's not active, and the channels and things like that. So yeah, keen to kind of get your take and mindset on that. And what does it mean in terms of your content strategy?
Yeah, so My team and I, our approach is very much a top of funnel approach. It's that brand awareness, attracting them, and we're not after, like there's certain, certain departments, right, where maybe okay, you have to go after that, 25% because there's a lot of attrition. But for the vast majority of positions that you have in companies, like you said, there's passive candidates, and that's where the opportunity and the magic is in terms of what we do. Because the goal should be okay. Like I don't want that person that's going to apply for every requisition on LinkedIn or Indeed, right? Because they're going to apply for everything. They're not very intentional. And you should want, like, if I'm first starting out any sort of employer branding shop or function, yeah, I'll take as much as I can get. But once I have everything well defined, I want to do something that's gonna, track Bree when Bree is not when Bree's on LinkedIn or when she's like, going through every requisition somewhere else. It's when she may be on TikTok and she goes through, she goes through maybe some comedy TikToks, and she sees something about, hey, Alex her at company ABCD, and that I'm talking about that, the support I have as an engineer. And that's where, okay, I meet her where she's at, not where I'm putting all my money in terms of recruitment. And she's like, you know what? Actually, I did have a bad day today. And I wasn't going to search, but because I saw this TikTok, I turned from a passive candidate to an active one. I'm going to take an action and do something that is well outside of what I have prepared to do today or even this week. And it's stuff like that, or someone just coming across content that my teammates are sharing, or other individuals. That's where you can really get those, the people who you want to have join your company, because the whole thing is really turning a passive candidate into an active one and finding different platforms and different ways, unique ways of making that happen.
Yeah. And if you're not doing, is that a good delineation? Help me understand this. Is that a good delineation between, if you're really just focusing on those active candidates, you're a lot more in the recruitment marketing space, very tactical, versus the rest, like we say, imagine it's the other 75%. We're trying, like you said, trying to bring them over to the active space, that we're doing the true employer brand, like you said, magic.
So I don't take so recruitment marketing is a mixed bags, right? So for me, the way I view it is you have your content so under employer branding, you have your content marketing, which is organic, you create everything. Once you push it out at a paid level, that's your recruitment marketing. But then you can have two different approaches for that, right? If you have, let's say for example, we hire for like a lot of classes at GoDaddy. So with that, okay, we have to go, like, the approach there is, okay, we want to get as many applicants as we can for care positions. However, if it's for the other positions we have on the corporate side in engineering, it's more of a brand awareness play. And yeah, there is a call to action, but it's not where, okay, we're looking for so many applicants. So I would say it's more of a two-pronged approach when it comes to the paid recruitment marketing.
Yep. Okay. And yeah, you just mentioned GoDaddy before. Like, is there a couple of examples of the type of content or that has really landed for you guys and helped you stand out better and motivate those passive candidates? You got a few examples you'd be willing to share?
Yeah, the biggest one, without getting too deep into the details. Happy to share if anybody reaches out. But,
come on.
No, so good friend James Ellis. Outside of just collaborating with him on a few different things, one of the best nuggets that he shared that I think a lot of companies have to get better at is, you could be hiring, but you don't need to say that you're hiring. We've seen success with that in videos because when you're almost like too much out there. Like the best example that he shared is, when salespeople are trying to sell stuff, they don't have to scream from the rooftops or scream on social media that they are hiring, that they are trying to sell whatever, right? They kind of work their way into that, right? They'll work their way into it with the ultimate goal of selling you on something, but that's not what they're going to lead with. And what we did was switch our focus. So we're okay. Yeah, we know we need to hire people. That's, at the end of the day, we fall into TA. That's what, we have to attract and we have to hire. However, how do we get them? How do we get that person to, be so back to being, passive to active? And it's focusing on, like, what do we can't compete with, there's bigger companies who have amazing, amazing things that they offer, like let's say Meta or Alphabet / Google. But what we offer is unique. So let's talk about the benefits. Maybe, if you're going through something, life changing, what have we done? Can we do we have teammates who are willing to share that? And we can highlight that one, we're amplifying their stories. Two, we're putting that out there to potential, future teammates that would want to join us down the road. And when they see that and resonates for them, they're like, you're not just saying, hey, join our team, we're so amazing, now hiring. That's your call to action, but you don't lead with that. And we found that it's been pretty successful for us.
Yeah. And when you say successful, like what's kind of the feedback loop? Where are you looking to determine that this is getting more traction than what the alternative might have been?
Simple A/B testing, Jay. So your typical we're hiring video, let's say on Instagram or TikTok, and you may be getting a couple hundred views versus getting 1 million. So the one about focusing more, leaning more in on the support works out way better. But I will say it does matter, like in terms of like, one, are you willing to take the risk? Two, do you have the support of your leadership to do that? Because if your leadership provides you that safe space where, hey, listen, it's okay to mess up, right? And if you mess up, like the Ted Lasso approach, be like the smartest animal on the planet, a goldfish, have a 10-second memory, mess up, do it again, keep trying new things. If you have that freedom to do that with your leadership and that culture and environment, then you can do that. But I think it's a little bit scary, if you know there are repercussions if you fail, right? You're going to be a little iffy on testing out new things. But I would say testing out new things is going to serve you better than anything, assuming you have the ability to do that.
Yeah, totally. Hey, we just got a question come through from Samantha, which is at top of funnel, how do you measure brand awareness? Is it mainly on the engagement rates? What's your take on that?
Yeah.
Shoot, there's a lot of different things. There's a great ebook by the Martech and Employer Bandwagon on 549 KPIs. It's not a plug, but
it's not enough. It's not enough.
There's quite a few things there. So engagement rates is one thing. Also in terms of brand awareness, I've been diving really, really deeply into Google Analytics. And the reason why I bring this up is you can see out of your top 10 sources, right? Where you're plugging in tons of money. You would hope that LinkedIn is somewhere at the top because if you have a 6-figure contract with them, enterprise, like most big companies, you should see a lot of traffic from there. But I'm more interested in the organic traffic. So outside of what we're paying for, organic tells me you've seen enough of all the things that we've been talking about, right? We put out employee advocacy type of messaging. We put out blogs, videos, paid adverts. And then we have, gotten into your head in a good way, I would hope, versus a bad way, where you've taken the action on your own. You've made the decision to type in careers.godaddy.com or careers.videomyjob.com. That's a very calculated approach because you've enjoyed everything you've seen. And so because of that, now you love the brand, you've taken an action, and then you're typing in keywords, you're doing these different things. And that tells me more than, me sending you there with a paid ad, right? Paid ads are good too, but then once, you go there on your own, I think there's a lot to be taken from that and that alone.
Yep. And I think, sorry, you go.
What's that?
You go.
I was going to say, it's so frustrating though, that because you'd love to know what was it. And obviously they've heard your messages, they've seen your content over and over again. What was it though that made them go out of their way to proactively search you? And you'll never know that one. Isn't that frustrating?
You won't, but I guarantee if you dive into your surveys, people will go out of their way to tell you. And I'm surprised. I've seen quite a few come in over the years, whether it be here or elsewhere, with consulting gigs or other full-time gigs. They will tell you. So if you've done a good job, they'll say, hey, actually, I was on the fence about this, but I just did a full scan of your social sites and I saw, Jay featured over here, Bree doing this. And it just showed me how much, how passionate you were about supporting your people. So I stayed along with the process, and I eventually, either it didn't work out or I did eventually join the company.
Yeah. So I've heard a
Yeah.
couple of times now, you're obviously mentioning these surveys. So what I'm hearing, it's quite critical for organizations to put in some, we'll say, quite comprehensive survey questions in order to gather the insights that you need in the employer brand space to do what you do. So I think typically when companies have a survey in, it might be about the candidate experience, and it might be more of an NPS, kind of like, what was that journey like from the recruitment perspective? But you're taking that another layer down, aren't you?
Yeah. So you get a lot from that, and also like just a simple drop down multiple choice, not multiple choice, but like single select option, right? Like, how did you hear about us? But the surveys are huge, and I think that like companies may feel their survey fatigue. Definitely internally that could be something that's there. But if you provide people with a very good candidate experience, from the first touch point to when they either get denied or they get the position, that's going to resonate for them, because people put too much stock into like Indeed, Glassdoor comparably. But if you think about it, you're going there if you, I think, if I had to, say, or, like have a personal opinion on that, I would say most people would go there if they're kind of pissed off about something. So if I know like, hey, I'm pretty angry with this, this company and the experience I had, or, I'm a former employee, I'm going to go there. But if that experience was that good, right? Hey, listen, if it didn't work out, I'm going to actually go through your survey process. I have to care that much to do that. If I'm upset with you, I'm not going into your own little platform to give you advice or to share reviews with you that you can in turn use to, help out your company. I wouldn't even do that at all.
Yeah, I was going to say before, Alex, in response to that question from Samantha about the brand play, and how to measure that, I think you touched on just a really important point there, which I think is easily overlooked for people who don't geek out on this stuff all the time, which is, if let's say you're running social media focused brand awareness, it's good. I think what you were saying is it's good not to rely on, okay, did we get a click through from that content to the website and that's how we know it's working, because people don't necessarily do that. A lot of people won't click or don't want to click, but they'll go straight over to search when the time is right and search for your brand name specifically because you've educated them on the social media side. So yeah, you kind of touched on it. I just wanted to tease that out a little bit more. It's not about getting the click. It's about, well, is it leading to more activity that means they know who we are and they're deliberately looking for us, which search, and then of course, that's a good lead indicator. But then, obviously the lag stuff, we have to wait. We have to be patient and wait until we're right down the tail end of the conversation to tease out what really made the difference for you.
Yeah, true. I think that, and then one, and this is so basic, so simple, but it's something that I heard at RecFest here in the States, was that referrals. Like, I think it's easy to discount that too, but if outside of your, showcasing the employer brand externally, if you're doing a good job internally, people feel like, they have like a war cry, rally cry, whatever you want to call it. They feel great about the company, great about the brand. They're going to refer people. But if you look at that in terms of judging the sentiment, if they don't like what's, the direction the company's going in, and they really don't like what's being, how things are just going overall, they're not going to refer anybody. So it's something simple that we all have access to, but we really don't put a lot of thought into.
Okay, cool. Hey, I've got one more question on the content side of things. For you as well. So Alex, you're talking, you mentioned before around being able to experiment a bit more, being able to try different versions of the story or formats of content, especially around video. So this one's pretty close to our heart at Video My Job. But yeah, always interested to hear how people think about like the lo-fi kind of cheap, easy, fast to produce type content or employee generated versus the higher end production side of things. So yeah, do you want to kind of share your thoughts around balancing out between those two?
Yeah, so I would say if you are in a situation where you don't have much of a budget at all, right? I think that the lo-fi it's going to be your only option. So finding a way to make that work, dropping some filters in there, some overlay to kind of dress it up a little bit, but still keeping it very authentic. Now, if you have the luxury of having, like, let's say, an in-house creative team that does want to help you out, you've extended the olive branch, or they've extended that back to you, I would say. Then okay, like where do you want to use them? Because I wouldn't say you use that team for every single video that you have. Maybe for like the higher end ones where, okay, if you're trying to showcase something that is going to be a little probably played a little more broadly. But if you're doing like simple TikTok or a reel or FBIG type of story, then I think it makes sense just to keep that very lo-fi, very authentic. Kind of steer away from prompts and scripts because people will rewrite through that. But it depends where you're at. I mean, I used to be very much lo-fi all the way. But honestly, at the time when I was going through that, I didn't have much of a budget at a previous company, and that was the only thing you had to even work with. But if you got two options, kind of picking and choosing like where you can leverage that team, and really where you can do stuff on your own to speak to a specific audience or to use on a specific campaign.
Yep. Cool. That's really useful. Really, really good breakdown. Okay. Any other questions for you, Bree, before we jump on to the next one?
Oh, but look, I'd love to spend time really digging into the sexy stuff. So around TikTok and Insta and the kind of content there. But I wrote down a note for myself here before we touched on it. So the less sexier side about the data. Obviously, we spoke about commercializing the function and needing to tie what we're doing to tangible business outcomes. Let's face it, no one in TA or HR really understands what impressions, engagement, CTRs actually mean. So how do we make the value of what we're doing more obvious to the business? So like, how do you go from taking these kind of brand awareness metrics and connecting them to actual TA or HR metrics across the employee lifecycle?
I mean, I shouldn't say it's simple, right? Because it's you and I have had the chance to do this for many years, so it seems simple, but seeing what you're being tasked with for the year, right? Let's say if the goal is to to push more, to get more, individuals within a certain age group or, within a certain type of demographic, if that's the approach, are you hitting that? Is that the goal of the company? Are your campaigns in line with that? Also, if the goal is to, maybe expand, maybe you're moving to a different region that is new, like your company has never been there before. Let's say maybe Canada's probably the worst example, but my wife's Canadian. Let's go with Canada. Let's say you're expanding into Canada, right? And yeah, you maybe have 1 million impressions and X amount of clicks. But so how do you share that with the with leadership as to why that matters? Well, okay, prior to the company being there was no presence. You compile everything you've done to to bring that market to life with, okay, let's say you did a couple of day in the life type of videos, a couple of blogs. You also worked with some local partners to to get everything up and going. And then, all right, go back to your native platforms, the dashboards you have there. So as you mentioned, Instagram, TikTok, Google Analytics is also a great one to drop into. And have you seen a difference? These tools have a pretty simple functionality with the reporting and their dashboards that do a comparison. They'll do the work for you. So you don't need to calculate this in Excel on your own. So do a quarter to quarter comparison, or you want to do year to year, see what the change was. And then, okay, is Canada now like, one of your, top locations, and what are you getting from that area? And it wasn't, and then dial it back down to specific piece of content. Okay, if it's from that, that's working. You've done a good job of meeting that one goal for the company of growing the audience, growing the brand awareness in Canada. So could be Canada, could be India, where your company is focusing at. But then being able to tie it in some shape or form, because back to what you mentioned initially, it's if you're not doing that, and there's so many different ways to do it. If it's strictly impressions and clicks, I think that conversation begins and it ends, right? You have nothing else that's going to help you really share that story, and you're using no data to even to make it go any further.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is, data is useless unless it's got some context to it. So it's around really understanding what that HR or the talent strategy is for the organization and being able to tell a story with that relevant data. So what about more broadly around what impressions you're receiving or traffic you're visiting to your site? If your organization's focused on growing in Canada, then you need to tell the story. I guess look at that data specifically to Canada and be able to paint a picture of what we're doing here is impacting in this way because of X, Y, Z data points.
Yep, exactly.
And in that context, Alex, how do you kind of break down the funnel side of things, and do all roads lead back to the career site as like a center point? And from there, is it about engagement applications? What are you looking for on the career side of things? But yeah, can you break down the funnel?
Yeah, so I mean, it very much is that, right? Because at the end of the day, I want them to, and so it's the career site, but there's a lot of A/B testing to see what actually makes someone tick or click. Let's go with click instead, because if I'm sending them to, so I'm doing all these different things, blogs, videos, adverts on through recruitment marketing, but I do want to drive them there. So all right, do I send them to our job description that's part of the ATS? Or so they get right to the point, but they learn nothing about the culture because it's very cut and dry. Or do I send them to the main landing page for the career page where, okay, if there's a lot going on there, I'm likely losing them because they went there for this, but then they got lost in the way. The navigation could completely suck, and you're losing them from there. Or do I push them to like the search, the jobs results for the search page, and it gives them, let's say, 20 openings. I'm sending them right to where they probably want to be. So ultimately, it's the career page. But I'm honestly, I've been doing a lot of A/B testing in the last couple of years to see, okay, which one works? Which one really resonates with them? And I would say it's sending them right to the job description. Unless you have a lot there to work with, you can embed a lot of different things. You're losing people because it's more of a, okay, they're clicking on something to discover, to explore, to really like kind of they're profiling you to check you out, and they don't get much from there. So sending them elsewhere has been more I guess more successful for us and for me.
It's interesting. Makes sense though, right? It's some pretty appalling job ads. Sorry. It's true.
Yeah. Okay. And then so I've got a couple of other questions here for you as well, which is, okay, so if some folks are watching now and they're thinking about how to create the report itself and show some of those results and the commercial value, what would be on that page or not be on that page, per se? I suppose we did kind of touch on this a little bit more about the MBR or the QBR side of things, but if you're looking more at like a dashboard view, what would you expect to be on that page?
Let's see. This is where I'm gonna lean on, and I told Nick Thompson this, that I would name drop him here. He's the one that first shared this idea with me, but it's you would share, okay, the start with when you started an advert, like so the first touch point, drop that into there, as well as the time to fill, like what were you working with initially, and then like how much was spent that goes into that, and then grabbing all of that together and then seeing how much how much you saved, and whether it be in terms of saved in terms of the amount of days that were saved to bring the individuals in, and then and there's a little.
Looks like we lost the feed for a second.
Are we back?
I'll give him a second.
Yeah.
Okay, you're back.
Okay. And then showing, what you were able to help the company save, as well as how much they were able to. It could be certain situations where they actually brought in some sort of profit due to that, or more clients, customers, patients, whatever the scenario may be. But just putting I guess the long and short of it all, just putting more like clear-cut data out there right away for them to look at. But then with the whole, sorry, and I know we kind of got caught off in between, but what I was referencing with Nick Thompson is it's really a matter of just like showcasing how you're making that big impact. But then again, it's putting into practice is going to be unique to each and every person and company.
Yep. Yeah. But kind of what it sounds like you're summarizing there is, again, it's like following that line of conversation of, you're not leading with this is how many impressions and clicks and all these things. You're cutting straight to those kind of TA or recruiting metrics up front, and how are we adjusting those as a result of this investment in this activity, right?
Yeah, because it's definitely that, and like what I'm looking at specifically to the scenarios that I'm working with is I'm very big on employee advocacy. So it's taking bits and pieces of like the time to hire, time to apply, and okay, through our efforts as a team, not just within TA but other teams, is that impacting the time to fill? Because if it is, that's something where I can show that to leadership and say, hey, listen, actually due to what we're doing here, we spent X amount of dollars on this platform to help amplify our messages and to share our hiring efforts and different stories. And it's actually, we saved money so by doing it there, and we only paid, let's say, a couple $1,000s. We've surpassed that with earned media, which is the posts that our people are sharing, the likes, the shares, they're all quantifiable. And then from there, looking at, okay, we actually have minimized our dependency on, let's say, LinkedIn, Indeed. We've taken away from that and localized job boards. And using this one source, which is our number one source, our people, has saved us money, got people in the door quicker, working on projects. That's where I think there's a huge win. There's a huge opportunity. Haven't quite solved that yet, but that is something that I am working on at the moment.
Yeah. Nice. That's super clear.
Sorry, Jay.
No, you go.
What I'm hearing is we need to be set up to be able to track all this, right? Like, this is so critical. And us to tell this story, to paint this picture of this impact, we need to make sure that all of our digital touch points are set up and optimized for conversion, but then also that we've got the right tools to track that journey. Otherwise, it's kind of really hard for us to tell that story, right?
Yeah, it is. And I mean, you can, I think in the perfect world, right, we have everything is trackable from the first touch point to when they either get DQ'd or they get hired. But without having that, which a lot of companies don't, you can use something as simple as UTM tracking links. That's what the team at HelloFresh was actually doing. They ran, you could speak to the team over there more specifically about that, but just knowing high level what they experienced is they actually did an employee advocacy program using UTM tracking links, and that helped them out with being successful and driving a lot of people in the doors. And it's a very simple tracking option that ties automatically back to Google Analytics, as long as you just use your login. Gives you everything there on the dashboard. But it's like one of many things, like you mentioned, Bree. Like if we could track everything and have all the data points there, that would be the ideal state. But I understand that each person, each company is not quite there yet.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We're coming up on the hour, so that pretty much brings us to the end of the main topics. Some really great insight there, Alex. That was so cool. We will jump into just the last final topic here, which is the follow-on question. So, as you know, at the end of each session, we get the guest to leave a question for the next guest. Funnily enough, it was actually Bree was our last guest before she came on to co-host. So it's going to be a little video of Bree with her question that I don't think we knew it was Alex. Did we know it was Alex at the time?
No,
I don't think we knew. So could be a little bit left field for you, but we're gonna play that question for you now and get your response, and then we'll get your question for the next guest.
Sure.
So I think, carrying on around what's the single most important thing, I'm going to go through it down to for people who don't have big budgets or access to specialized resources, what would you say are the most impactful activities that teams can do themselves in order to promote their organization, to build their employer brand attractiveness and awareness? So what hacks can you share?
Okay. Could you guys hear that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great.
Lucky I wore a different shirt today, guys.
Yeah.
That's a good one, though. I feel like you kind of put that on silver platter for me, because I think the single like most critical yet probably the easiest thing you could do that's free that you have platforms that you can use right away for this is you can run a full-fledged employee advocacy program to build your brand and build brand ambassadors, right? Because it costs you nothing but time to simply identify the ambassadors, work with them, level them up. And then in terms of platforms, I know everyone wants to run out there and blow their budget on a lot of these tools, like whether there's Bamboo, Everyone's Social. But you can, let's say, if you have no messaging options, which I find would be a little tough to not have, you can use Outlook, right? Put 5 options there. This comes from Allison Cruz. She actually did this many years ago. 5 options, a lot of hand holding, show them how to tag, put how to tag a company, how to drop hashtags, a proper link, UTM tracking link preferably, and there you go. Or on top of that, everyone uses Teams, Discord, or Slack. You can create a channel that focuses on that. And we actually did that same thing here at GoDaddy. It was focused on EB, and we built it up until when we decided to eventually use a vendor to do that. But it can all be done in-house. A lot of hand holding, but you will get a lot out of that return. And really just grow your employer brand by using your people. Not a whole lot of money has to go into that at all, if anything.
Fantastic.
Okay, great. Thanks, Alex. And then, so
Sure.
we've got, what's your question for the next guest? I think we're working on getting Rachel Kennedy. I think you know Rachel. So we're working on getting Rachel Kennedy fully booked in. I think she's on the session today as well. So she'll get a head start when you share your question today.
All right. So I think Bree had a good one there, but for me, it would be, what do you wish you knew about employer branding that you didn't know before you got into it?
Okay.
It's very, very open-ended.
All right. Look forward to hearing that one from Rachel next time. So, okay, that brings us pretty much to the end of the session. Thanks again, Alex. Thanks, Bree, for co-hosting. It's been good, and we look forward to having you on again for the upcoming sessions as well. But actually, sorry, Paul's just reminded me we've got to do the giveaway for the best questions. So, Paul, have you got you want to put up the best question? We're going to send the book out. Samantha McHale will get a copy of James Ellis's book out to you. So we'll be in touch to get your address and get that sent straight out to you. So yeah, look, thanks again for the live audience and the interaction today. If you want to be kept up to date on all the live sessions and the highlights, as well as some of the recordings and everything, make sure to jump on LinkedIn, follow Video My Job. That'll take you to the Talking Talent newsletter. And that's a wrap. We'll see everybody again next month.
Bye, guys.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.